What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Heavyweight Nation podcast. And today, this has been an episode we've been waiting to film. We had a one fall through previous. We're not letting it fall through today. We got 2018 national champ, now grad assistant at Wisconsin. We got a guy who's now putting on the tear at the senior level. We got Mr. Seth Gross in the building. Seth Gross, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal today. Got some beautiful weather. Talking to you guys. It doesn't get much better than this.
To carry on our trait of us loving Wisconsin, I promise I'm from PA and Matt is from Jersey. Neither of us have Wisconsin ties, but it just so happens that the boys from Wisconsin love Heavyweight Nation and we don't have a problem with that. So
Hey,
when the
we love you
content
guys too.
when the
We love you
content
guys too.
when the content comes, it comes. So we're excited to talk to Mr. Gross here. So I mean, let me tell you, first off, one of the most inspirational stories, in my opinion, as of the last 10 years in college wrestling. Your wrestling story is not on a paved way like most people, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But man, let me tell you, one of the most spiritual guys out there as well. I feel like your connection with God is the best out of anybody out there, man. So talk a little bit about, you know, how wrestling kind of got into your life and how that started for you.
Absolutely. So I started wrestling when I was pretty young. My dad, all his brothers wrestled growing up, so I got into it at a young age. I was probably 6 years old, and I just immediately fell in love with the sport. I was actually a little bit of a bigger kid, so I got teased a little bit, kind of middle school, high school. So wrestling was kind of my escape from all that. Right now, I can actually beat up on some kids and let a little anger out. So that was always why I just love wrestling so much. And it's like once you get in that wrestling room, nothing else matters. And the only thing is, that opponent in front of you and learning it and having a good time. So I immediately fell in love with the sport of wrestling. And I was okay growing up in youth. I won a couple state titles here and there, and then around middle school, I think I got a triple crown, and yeah, I just fell in love with it, and got to high school. I kind of decided that's when I was a multi-sport athlete before that, but once I got to high school, I was like, I'm going all in on the sport of wrestling. Like I love this. This is something I could see myself doing forever. And so I went all in on it, and I had some pretty good success in high school. I was a three-time state champion in Minnesota. I wrestled for Apple Valley. My team was Mark Hall, Gable Stevenson. So my freshman year, we were the number one team in the country, and my senior year, we were the number one team in the country as well in high school. So part of a pretty cool program, and a best time in that program probably in their history. And so I won three state titles for Minnesota, and then I also won three Fargo titles in freestyle. And so I love the sport of wrestling, and it's been a huge part. And God's also, you hit on that. God's also been just through experience, He's become the biggest part of my life. He's always been a part of my life, but as I've gone through some experiences and gone through different things, he's really become the forefront and center for everything I do, and my faith. And God is everything to me, and He's the one that allows me to continue to wrestle and continue to do the things I do. So that's a brief rundown of kind of that high school youth wrestling. So
Yeah. So obviously
That's
you were
a
good enough,
pretty
I'm
impressive.
sure. Yeah, impressive high school. I'm sure at that point you were probably good enough to go to any college of your choice. And you choose to go to Iowa with the Iowa Hawkeyes. And some unforeseen things happen. Um, and you end up getting arrested.
yep.
And I think there's probably, just us doing some research for today, there's probably about 150 news articles out there with your name plastered on the first sentence of the newspaper. So
yep.
talk a little bit about kind of what happened that day and how things went down in Iowa.
Yeah, so we'll jump right to that night. Yeah, I was so obviously I was there. I chose to go to Iowa out of college, and everything was going pretty good. I was having a good redshirt campaign there. I had maybe 18-4, something like that on the year, and
Pretty good.
my only losses were I lost to Dean Heil, I lost to I think one other All American, and then two guys I probably should have beat. But had a pretty good year. Things were going well. I was set to be the starting guy in the lineup that following year, and I ended up getting injured right towards the end of my redshirt year there, and this kind of, just to get into it, right? Wrestling was everything to me, right? Going into college, that's why I chose Iowa. Wrestling was really the only thing I cared about. It was wrestling, wrestling, wrestling. I didn't have time for a social life. I didn't have time for kind of threw my face to the back burner. It was like wrestling. Like if you don't win, it's the end of the world. And so
Just
that's
all
kind of
in.
where, yeah, all in, and that's kind of where my mind was at, and that wasn't healthy. So when I did get that injury, I was off the mat for a good couple months there, and all of a sudden, right, I can't wrestle, and that was my whole being at the time, and so that gets stripped away from me, and naturally I tried to fill that void, and I didn't fill it with very good things, and this led to just being in the wrong crowds and put myself in bad situations. And so that night that you're talking about, that I ended up in jail, I ended up going to a party, getting pretty drunk, and we ended up going out, just a handful of other wrestlers right after that, and it was like, I would say there was like 8 or 9 at night, and we're going in and just taking stupid stuff out of people's cars. And it's 8 or 9 at night. People can see out their window. It's not like people are sleeping like we did at 3 in the morning. So pretty early into it, we were just taking things out of people's cars, and somebody came out, saw us, called the police, and tried to run and hide and get away. And police ended up pretty much catching us in the act there, and brought us into jail, and it was St. Patrick's Day that day, and a couple days after my birthday too. And so, but we were in a jail cell with about 40 other guys when we got put in there, and it was crazy. It was absolutely the scariest thing. I'd never been in a situation like that. I hadn't gotten in any sort of trouble with the law previous to this, so to go from never even getting in trouble at all to being in jail with 40 other guys, like scary looking dudes, and looking back, it's crazy. All these guys are just sitting in there like all casually, like it's no big deal, telling their stories of why they're in jail. And I remember one guy just got maced, and he was talking about how he fought 3 cops, and so it was a crazy, surreal experience. And yeah, it was just because of those poor choices I made. And like I said, once wrestling got took out of it, I tried to fill the void in the wrong way, and so that led to making some poor decisions, and then ended up in a jail cell.
Yeah. So obviously, I feel like this is a question I haven't really heard a lot of people ask you is, do you know where your two other teammates, all like your former Iowa Hawkeyes, those two other guys, did they ever come back to the sport?
Yep. So Logan Ryan actually stayed on at the University of Iowa for, I think, one more year, and then he ended up transferring to the University of Northern Iowa. And then Ross Lembeck stopped wrestling at the college level, but I'm pretty sure he does some high school wrestling coaching now. And Ross actually ended up getting his charges dropped. So I'm not to get into too many details, but he actually didn't have anything to do with like the taking things to the car, and so, but he did drive under the influence, and so that was what he got in trouble for. So, but like when things came to light, we basically told him like, hey, this dude didn't have anything to do with it. So he ended up being kind of free of all that, and didn't really end up getting in too much trouble. And through it all, we all got our records clear and all that. So it's not like we have anything now, but yeah, I think both of them are doing well now, and moved on past then. But yeah, Logan wrestled for a little bit, and I know Ross is still involved with the sport.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely. And that's good to hear. And for you to bounce back in the way that you did, going from that low point to such a high point right after that and just coming back is amazing to see. I know a lot of people wouldn't have done that. They would have followed that dark path, and you rose to the top.
Yeah.
Yep, and I
100%.
mean there's, I mean, it, I know I ended up, making it all right, but it was a long and hard, and like you said, dark path, right? I had to, a lot of self reflection, a lot of talking to God, praying about things, and I was ready. Personally, if it was just me, I would have thrown in the towel. But I was very fortunate to have an amazing support system through my family, through God, just through the people around me that were able to kind of pull me out of that situation. Because I think if I would have went through that on my own, I wouldn't have wrestled again.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be where I am. So I was very fortunate for the people in my life that kept me, going, and brought me back to, my roots. And so I'd be nowhere without them. But yeah, I was able to come back and I gained 40 pounds at the time. I was 180 when I got to South Dakota State, and so it was a long journey back to where I was able to get. But there's a lot of people that helped me reach that point.
100%. And I think another question I haven't really heard a lot of people ask you about that whole situation was, what was your family's reaction to that? Because like you said, like, previous to that experience, you were probably never even in trouble at school. You went from this, you know, peak athlete in high school to now, what was that like calling your parents from jail?
Oh, it was bad. We were in jail for 36 hours, and I get out, and the first thing, I get my stuff back. I go. So when you're in Iowa jail, you actually don't get any out of state phone calls. So I didn't get to call anybody when I was in jail, and so we finally get released. And we go to Ross's house, and I plug my stuff in and phone charge, and I just have calls and calls and texts and voicemails. And the first thing I did is I saw a couple long voicemails from my parents, and those are the first ones I listened to, and it was just like they were in shock, like they didn't even understand like what happened, like what's going on, why are you in jail, like no details had come out, and at this time we didn't really admit to anything. We were still acting like it wasn't us, like even though we basically got caught doing it, and so parents are freaking out, like why are you in jail? And so calling them and explaining to them, it was hard. Like I wasn't even honest with my parents at first. Like I tried to avoid the whole part that I was stealing things. Like I was like, oh, I drank and I messed up, and tried to act like that didn't happen. And then I was like, what are you doing? Like, the open, it's your freaking parents. And so I told them, and they were disappointed. And you all know what that feels like, right? It's worse than them being mad at you, right? Just that
Yep.
disappointment. And I know it was like, we didn't raise you like this, and that stuff hurts me, because I know my parents did an amazing job of raising me the right way and showing me that I should never be doing something like that. And so I had a lot of embarrassment and ashamed of things I'd done right away. And it was, they moved past it quick, thank goodness, right? They obviously, my dad, I got home and he gave me a good yelling at, and and my mom was more just crying and couldn't say much. But after we, probably after a day or two, it was more, all right, well, how do we move forward from here? How do we deal with what happened, and how do we get you back moving forward?
So how did the opportunity arise for San Diego State? Like you
South
said that,
Dakota State.
it's, or South Dakota State, sorry, South Dakota State. So like you said, you get up to 180, you kind of, wrestling's kind of in your back burner at this point. And how did that all come to the light?
And yeah, so it was, like I said, a long journey. And right after I finished that year, I finished out the school year at Iowa, and I moved back home. I actually just got a job I was working at Target. I was selling phones. I was eating good. I wasn't wrestling. I was, not really focusing on my future whatsoever. But one thing I did start falling back into, what was my faith. I started praying a lot more. I started attending church again, with my parents. And as I started really building, this relationship with God for myself, um, I kind of just I don't know, something deep inside me just was calling me back to the sport of wrestling. And I know I had a pretty important conversation where my aunt came into my job at Target and kind of just asked me, what are you trying to do from here? What's important to you? What do you care about? And a big part was God, and another part was wrestling. And so she's like, why aren't you wrestling? And I took the easy way out. It was just like, hey, nobody wants me anymore. Nobody wants me to wrestle for them. And she was like, did you ask every coach? And I was like, well, no. But I mean, I could assume when after what I'd done, nobody wants me on their team. She's like, well, you don't know if you don't ask. And so she kind of asked, what level do you want to wrestle on? I was like, my goal's always been to be a Division I champion. I know I can do well at that level. So she's like, all right, well, let's make a list of every Division I school in the country and reach out to as many as you can. And I wanted to be close to home, so I started by just messaging messaging everyone in the area, and one of those schools was South Dakota State. I sent an email to Coach Bono, and I remember within 5 minutes of me sending that message to him, he'd email me back. I'm like, hey, I know your story. I don't want to email about this, but let's get you out here and talk face to face. And so within 24 hours, I was on my way to South Dakota State University to talk to Coach Bono.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible now that like we look back, to 2017, 2018, and now it being 2023, and you're still right beside Bono. And I think that really shows just like kind of the honor and the respect you have for him that you go to San Diego State, and then all of a sudden you now are back and you're at Wisconsin with him. So you've told this story before in another podcast, and I think it's probably one of the funniest stories I've heard is about that first run that you guys did at your first run at South Dakota State. So tell the story to us a little bit about what you got into on that first run you did.
Oh, absolutely. So I get to South Dakota State, and like I said, and to preface this, it's pretty funny because he was asking me like, "Hey, what weight do you want to go? What do you weigh?" I was like, "Oh, probably weigh 155, 160. I'll be a 141 pounder." And I go in there for our first wrestling practice, and I actually wrestle with Coach Bono. And we walk out of practice, and this dude's like, "Dude, you are not 155 pounds. Like, get on the scale." And I remember I stepped on the scale, and after the workout, I was like 169 pounds. And so that means before that, I was probably 175 or so. So that was that very first wrestling. Then after we always do team runs out there, and we'd run to Perkins and back, and that would be kind of our ending conditioning. And so we get outside after practice. I'm already dying, like out of shape as ever. And like I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this run. Like I can't do this right now. So we start running. Right when you start running, there's this big set of trees, and I'm like dead in the back. Nobody really knows what I'm doing. I'm actually with another guy. His name was Bubba, and so me and him are running, and I was like, dude, I can't do this. Let's not do this right now. And so we hop over into the trees, and we're just like, all right, we're gonna wait this out. When they get back, we're gonna run in, and we're gonna not have to do this run today. And we'll be done with it. So we're sitting in the trees, and for whatever reason, I must not have been thinking. I wasn't in the best state of mind or whatever. But I go over there. I'm in the trees. The guys start running back, and like one guy goes past, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna go for it. And so I jump out in second place and like sprinted in. This was like 100 yards from where we started, and nobody right away. Everybody was pissed and mad, and they're like, who is this big old chubby guy running out of the woods, acting like he's like the fastest dude here? And so right away they kind of called me out for it. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, all right, yeah, I didn't do the run. And so they ended up sending the volunteer coach with me, and he had to run the whole thing with me, make sure I did the whole thing. And yeah, from there on out, they made sure somebody was watching me. So that was my very first run there.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you were saying you had a good support team. If that assistant coach didn't go out, you were really just cheating yourself, and you wouldn't have got to that next level.
Exactly. I need some accountability. It's not, it was just I was that out of shape, and that's the biggest thing I've learned from being around Coach Reed or Coach Bono is just the discipline and doing things right, even when nobody's watching. Right? If you really want to get to where you want to be, you got to do it right all the time, and you got to keep promises to yourself and do everything that you set out to do. But a big thing is just that self accountability. And they taught me that quick when I was at South Dakota, because there was no leeway there. You screw off or you don't do the right thing, they're gonna be on you hard and make sure you get back on the right path.
Yeah, definitely. And you went from wrestling being your entire life, and that's the only thing you're focusing on, to really not thinking about wrestling or thinking about it but not doing it, to jumping right back into it. It's a hard transition for anyone who's wrestled. They know even a little time off is you get out of shape pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
There's
It
no
was a
shape
long
like
road
wrestling
back.
shape.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, it was crazy, and that's why I ended up going 141 that first season there, and that's kind of why I was just so big that I couldn't get down to 33. I know by the end of the season I was only weighing 142, 143 like on a given day. So making 141 was super easy by the end of the year. But yeah, it's hard. Once and it takes a while to get back in shape. You can't really rush that. So that's why I ended up wrestling 141 that year.
Yeah, I'm sure I couldn't make weight right now. No
Yeah, it
way.
takes time. You got to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So 2017 rolls around, and this is when, in my opinion, we start to see the rise of Seth Gross. So 2017, you find yourself in the NCAA finals. What was that kind of like for you? Was that a surreal moment, knowing that 2 years back you were in a jail cell, to now that you're on the mat under the spotlight in the national finals? What was that kind of like for you?
It was crazy. It was very surreal, and it was almost exactly two years from the day. But I think it was exactly. It might be like one day off or something. But yeah, almost exactly 2 years later, I was wrestling for a national title. And yeah, that's crazy. And it also for me, it's just like looking back on it. Everybody goes through obstacles. Everybody's gonna have bumps in the road. They're going to be at their lowest. They're going to be in dark times. And I think the big thing is that it just shows that if you commit to doing the right things, no matter what you've done in the past, no matter what obstacles you're facing, that if you put your head down and you do the right things over a period of time, that you're going to be able to reach whatever your biggest goals might be. And along with that, it's like never lose sight of your dreams, right? I know going through those things, it's very easy to say, screw it. Now I'm just content with being back on a Division I team, right? But no, I kept those dreams, I kept those goals, and I think that people are sometimes too easy to kind of give up on those things. That was through that situation. The big thing is like it doesn't matter what you've gone through, right? What matters is how you face today, how you face tomorrow, and keep dreaming big, right? Keep dreaming big and chase down everything that's in front of you. But yeah, it was a very, very surreal moment, and obviously there was a pretty big storyline behind it. Right, I was wrestling a guy from Iowa that I'd been teammates with a couple years prior, which also made it a pretty crazy thing. And so that was a lot of the build up to that national finals match too. Was a lot of right rehashing what I had done, about me getting in trouble and having to kind of face that in the media again for the first time. Like when I got to South Dakota State and I wasn't winning, nobody really asked about it or nobody really thought about it. They just thought, oh, that guy's done and washed up. And as I started having success and I make the national finals, now the story's coming back in, and now I kind of got to face it in front of people again, which I hadn't really done a whole lot. And so that was another big thing that I think let get to me mentally and kind of impact my wrestling a little bit. I was mentally exhausted going into that finals match, but overall, I was very very thankful that I was able to get back to that point and go wrestle on the big stage.
Yeah. In 2017, you fall. You get yourself a second place All-American status, which I'm sure for you, in the moment was like, wow, like I really did what I set my mind to. But in 2018, you had other things going on in your mind, and you go out there, and in 2018, you capture yourself. I believe it was the first national title for South Dakota State. So
Yep.
what was that like for you, And I'm sure again, 1 year's passed. I'm sure the story comes back out again and the whole storyline. And 3 years ago today, this guy was doing this and that. And what was that like for you winning that national title and getting your hand raised?
It was crazy enough to say. The biggest thing is I felt a sense of relief. All right, I just felt like there was so much. I had a huge chip on my shoulder. I can still remember the feeling to this day of losing that national finals match, and I remember walking off brokenhearted. And I remember the first thing I did is back in this back area and in this dark room. They had a set of bikes, and I got on a bike and I freaking just biked for 30 minutes. And then I sat down next to that bike, leaned out, and I just sat there and cried. And looking back, that's just how much I knew I'd put into it, and that I knew I didn't go out there and do what I was capable of doing. And so that next year, I just had a chip on my shoulder, and I just wanted the big thing for me was just every single match, make sure you're ready to go up here and physically. And so I had a big chip on my shoulder. And I think, honestly, looking back, I probably put a little bit too much pressure on myself to win it that year. But I also just had a chip that I wasn't going to be denied. And so that was the big thing for me. It's like, you're going to do this. And like you said, it was really, really cool being able to be the first champ in South Dakota State history. They're the school that gave me a chance when almost nobody else would. The school that the community rallied around me and built me up, even though I'd done what I'd done. They still took me in as family, and yeah, to this day, I love that community. I love getting back there. That's where I met my wife. Her family lives in Brookings, South Dakota still, and so I'm very, very thankful for that community. So being able to be the first Division I champ in any sport for that school was an absolutely amazing thing. So
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
one day there'll be a
that's
Seth Gross
awesome.
statue at South
Yeah,
Dakota State for being the first ever D1
oh,
national champ for them. That would
that
be
would be
sick.
awesome.
That'd be
that'd be
sick, man.
definitely awesome. But you talked a lot about, your mentality. You have to be strong up here and physically, and what did you do in that year, that off season to really get your mind right for that next year coming out and winning that national title?
Yeah, and like I said, I think the previous year, the talk about me getting in trouble and all that surfaced a lot, and I hadn't dealt it face on, and so that was running through my head all of a sudden. I couldn't just push it away; it was just run through my head. And so when I wrestled against Corey Clark, I was just mentally exhausted. And I was in the best shape of my life. Like, I never got tired in matches, and I remember the first minute of that match, I felt like heavy and exhausted and slow, and it was a crazy feeling because I knew I was in good shape. And like I said, I got on a bike after and biked for 30 minutes. I was so upset. So it wasn't like I was exhausted, but mentally I was. And so that next year, one big thing I remember doing that helped me mentally a lot was so the national championship was in Cleveland, and my sister actually lived or still does. She lives in Cleveland now. And that morning, I went, hung out at her house. We made some breakfast, made some eggs. We sat there, played board games. And I didn't think about my match at all that entire day. Right? It was probably whatever time. I know we wrestled at night. I hung out at my sister's all day. I got up, went on a walk, things like that to keep the body loose. But I didn't think about wrestling until it was time to go over there and kind of switch that flip or switch the flip there. And so I went over probably 5 o'clock and started dialing it in, but I didn't sit there thinking about it and draining myself mentally. And when it was time to lock in, I locked in, but I didn't overdo it. And I think that helped me a lot mentally. And that's something I still try to do is like, especially when you know who you're wrestling, you can start running 8 million scenarios in my head, and you try to put positive ones in all the time, but every once in a while, you get some negative ones here and there. And so it's like, right, let's keep all that out of my head, and then when it's time to dial in, I'll put those positive thoughts in there, and then I'm getting ready to roll.
100%. And I think, that national title, I remember, that was like prime time, like me in grade school, like sitting at my living room with all my wrestling teammates watching nationals. And I remember,
Yeah.
Seth Gross going out there and winning a national title. And then obviously, Bono and Reeder, they get the opportunity to go to Wisconsin. And was that something you kind of knew, like that you were going to follow them wherever they went, for after college? Which I know you had a year of eligibility left when they moved.
So to be 100% honest, I was pretty blindsided by it. Right, it was something that I found. Right, I win the first Division I title, and in school history, I'm getting back, having the time of my life. I'm a hero in the town, and then all of a sudden it comes out like Coach Bono and Coach Reeder are leaving, and I was devastated, right? Because these guys were everything to me, and to be honest, right in the moment, I was pretty mad, right? I was frustrated. I was, a lot of emotion going through my head. Um, but right, I took, I always like to before I address situations, right, take a moment to step back and think about why somebody might be doing what they did, and I stepped back from the situation for a little bit, and it was like, all right, well, getting a pretty awesome pay raise there. They're going to a Big Ten university. They can take better care of their family. The resources there are incredible, right? It makes sense. They're chasing down their dreams in their career to, hopefully bring a team to win a Division I title. And so once I step back from it, I was able to kind of understand um, why they did what they did. And so after that, no anger, everything, I was good. But like you said, I had 1 year of eligibility left, and I had all the intentions of the world to finish that up at South Dakota State and finish what I started there and leave my legacy at the university. And I ended up getting back surgery that year. I had a real bad back injury, and it just progressed and progressed, and to the point where I couldn't stand straight in the morning. I couldn't stay in a stance. I couldn't do anything. And so it got to the point where the only option was to have surgery. And so that's kind of the route I went. And through all of that, one thing I've always been big on, kind of my academics. I take them seriously, and one thing I always wanted to do was get into business a little bit. And so I started looking around after this. Like, first of all, I had to get accepted for a medical year, which I didn't know if I was going to. But one big thing, if I was gonna get a medical year and wrestle after that, one big thing I wanted to do was get into business school. And so I knew Wisconsin had a really good business school. South Dakota State, unfortunately, didn't really have any business school grad program. So that's one big reason I started looking there. And then obviously I had a really good relationship with Bono and Reeder, right? Those guys did a lot for me. So when I did figure out, like, hey, we're gonna medical redshirt this year and try to get a year back, I was like, hey, I'm gonna look at my options. And that was honestly, it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, is packing up and leaving South Dakota State, because like I said, that community rallied around me. That community did a lot for me. They were the school that gave me a second chance. But with that, I wanted to turn over every stone and get ready to win an Olympic title. And that was kind of the next big thing on my mind. And, the resources they have here at Wisconsin, it just made a lot of sense. And, getting back around these guys, like I said, one thing that I always appreciated with Bono and Reeder was just the whole the discipline, the organization, just right. Everything's very, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Blanking right now, but right, everything's set. You got the schedule perfectly lined up. You know what you're doing. Everything very transparent about everything. Where I felt like the new coach at South Dakota State, I thought he was a great coach, but he was a little more leaning towards, like, right, you got to do some individual stuff. Like, you got to be a professional, do it on your own. And to be honest, I'm much better now, but at the time, even after winning a national title, I needed somebody kind of pushing me, telling me what to do every workout, and I needed that type of oversight. And so for me to feel like I'm ready to go win this Olympic title or make a world team and things like that, I felt like I had to get back around these Coach Bono, Coach Reeder, and that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah, I'm sure it was really hard to leave somewhere that accepts you with open arms and not so good a time in your life, but then you had to make the decision for you and for your future and for your Olympic future. And I think obviously you made the right decision considering where you are now. And yeah, it's great.
Absolutely, and yeah, it's been a blessing, because I mean, it was crazy. COVID year happened, so I didn't even actually get to compete, for a national title that year. But I ended up becoming an assistant coach here, right behind those two, and now I get to do, I get to be around wrestling 24/7. I'm coaching the guys and training with the guys, and couldn't be more grateful for where I'm at. Being able to make a living and provide for my family by doing what I love. And so, it worked out well, and I'm excited. I'm glad that I made the decisions I made.
100%. And I think, you being in that room as well has definitely helped, Iowa. I mean, not Iowa. Obviously, it's helped Wisconsin a lot. I'm sure you get to roll around with guys like Eric Barnett, who I feel like next season is a guy who 100% is in contention for, a top 3 finish at nationals. And I mean, obviously you don't roll around with the bigger guys a lot, but you got guys in there like, Dean Hamidi and obviously Braxton and Trent, like those guys have, kind of progressed Wisconsin's program greatly. So what was that kind of like for you being able to get in with those kind of younger guys and kind of influence them with kind of what you've learned over the last, at this point, quite a while that you've been wrestling in college?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And right, those guys, Eric Barnett, Joe Zargo, we had Taylor Lamont this year. We had all Nick Millar. I'm going out with him in a couple days to go try to make a world team for U20 division. But it's absolutely amazing trying to help these guys chase down their goals and dreams and watching them. I've been there when Barnett reached one of his goals, and I've been there when he fell in short. But just being along and being a part of their journey and the relationships I've made with these guys has been absolutely amazing. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. And as much as I feel like I've given to these guys, I've learned so much from them, and I've grown as a person. I've grown as a wrestler. Um, Probably more from those guys than they've learned from me, and I do my best to help them chase down those goals. But yeah, they're an amazing group of guys, and they it's a great culture here, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And like you said, I think these guys have their eyes set on some big things this next year. So I'm excited for them, and I do what I can every day to help them be the best version of themselves, and they do the same for me. And so that's what one thing I appreciate about this team is just how selfless everybody is, and they want to build up the people around them.
100%. I think we could probably say that's pretty unanimous, being that I feel like we've heard that across the board at this point, pretty much from everybody, that we've spoken to from Wisconsin. But, obviously now, you're married, you got yourself a wife, and you're, like you said, you're providing for your family and still being able to do what you love. So talk a little bit about senior level freestyle wrestling and how that's now your main focus and everything that's going on with that for you.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride the last few years, and I've been wrestling at the senior level since my junior year of college. Didn't have the most success. I made the world team trials the last 4 or 5 years, and been up and down, and been close to beating some guys. And I kind of broke through last year, making the world team, and ended up fifth in the world. But man, is it fun? It's incredible. I wish that there was more opportunity to compete on the senior level, like within the United States, right? If you really want to get matches year round, you got to be willing to travel internationally, and that gets a little tough, and that's a little frustrating. But I love it. I love it. It's a fun challenge, and I'm always it's a fun game out here to try to figure out how you can be the best in the world. And it's cool. It's cool because like I said, I got my butt kicked a few weeks ago, and that one stung a little bit. But right, eyes are locked forward now. I got a kid on the way in July, going to be here in a month and a half. So I'm excited that I don't have much going on this summer besides training and getting ready for the Olympic year. But I'll get to spend a lot of time with my wife and soon to be child. But besides that, I'm going to be moving up to 65 kilos for the Olympic year. So I already dove right in as soon as I got back from the world team trials, just starting to put on some muscle and size. And me and Coach Reeder get up early, get our lifts in, and we're lifting 5 days a week right now, and we're getting after it. We're not taking it easy. So I'm excited for that. And like I said, it's just fun. You get to wrestle so many different unique styles, and got so many accomplished guys, and it's fun. See where you're stacked up, and see who you can knock off and beat, and continue to progress. And I think that I'm gonna keep building. And yeah, I didn't get what I want this year, but now it's time to focus on that Olympic year.
I feel
Yeah,
like,
man. Well, congratulations first off for the kid on the way.
yes, congratulations to you.
Congratulations for that. It's gonna be awesome to see you be a dad and
Thank you.
kick some ass. So
Yes, sir.
it's gonna be fun to watch.
That's very true. Very true. I don't think anybody will push your kid around in the playground when they see Seth Gross, Well, Seth Gross walk into the sandbox, but
Especially now you're getting bigger,
yeah,
Yep.
you got a little bit more wiggle room now. And do you think that
Exactly.
the move up to 65 kilos was just kind of what naturally felt right for you? don't want to really cut a ton of weight, because obviously we know, and we've heard this from anybody who's, kind of going on the longer side of their senior level, wrestling is that the older you get, the harder it is to cut weight.
Yeah. And typically, right, I actually went down to 57 kilos for the 2020 Olympic trials.
Mhm.
And, I did it. I did it the right way. I did everything right, and I made the weight, and I felt good. But it just, I don't know. It's almost like a gap in my memory. Just how I didn't have any fun. I didn't enjoy anything in my
I feel
life.
like
It was
people commented a
literally,
lot about you that year and said like you didn't look right.
yeah. No, I did not look good. I got my body fat checked by our nutritionist like the week before, and I was like down to like 4.5% or something crazy when he pinched me, and it was terrible. But I did do it right, and I felt okay to wrestle. Like, but like I said, it was just like my whole life revolved around what I was eating and making sure my weight stayed here. And it was like I didn't have anything else in my mind, and so it wasn't fun. And I kind of hated wrestling. I didn't hate wrestling, but I hated having to
Yeah.
wrestle when I felt like that.
You weren't
And
running at
so
100%.
yeah, so it just wasn't fun. It wasn't ideal. And with that being said, like I got a frame that I can put on weight, so it's like I don't need to. Right, I was a head, a foot or head taller than 90% of the guys that wrestle at 57 kilos. So it's like not like I can't get big and get to 65 kilos. I just never spent the time to do so. And so I'm excited. I think that I have I could be a whole new wrestler up a weight, and I think that it's gonna be fun seeing how much size and strength I can put on
Well,
and go do this thing.
talking to Trent Hilger, we know that Wisconsin's nutrition team is,
Yeah.
second to none. We know that they do a great job.
They got the
So
Oh,
shakes.
they got
they
Trent.
know how to bulk us up.
They put 30 pounds on Trent, and he looked like a monster. So, you going from 61 to 65 is going to be, I think that you'll look. I think you could definitely fill that weight out. Like you said, you're definitely pretty
You got the
tall for that
frame.
weight as well, and you got the frame to hold it. So we're gonna move on here to some fun questions for you, some wrestling related, some not wrestling related, to kind of let the fans know a little bit more about Seth Gross.
All
So
right, let's go. Let's
let
go.
Matt start it off here.
Let's see what we got. Well, first I want to say, as soon as you step on the mat next time, I'm going to be very happy to see you're big and bulky. So
Oh,
going with that, talked to a lot of Wisconsin guys. What's your favorite food in the area?
ooh, like favorite restaurant to go to, or
Mm-hmm.
so there's actually this little bar by my house, and they do this fish Friday. It's called Villa Tap. But me and my wife go there probably every other Friday or once a month on Friday. We go do this fish fry, and I love it. Can't beat a good fish fry.
Interesting
Nice,
choice.
nice. Fish
Now
fry.
we've heard pretty much almost everybody say this, but especially Trent Hilger. He's a big fan of Culver's. Is Culver's as good as everybody says it is?
Overs, really? I'm not. I mean, it's all right. I got one like 2 minutes from my house, and I think I could probably haven't been there in a year, 2 years.
Trent's a big concrete mixer guy. He said he sometimes double fists. I don't know what that means, but he's
Yeah, I'm not a big ice cream guy. Maybe if I was, I'd be a bigger Culver's guy.
interesting take, I guess. Interesting take. But
All
so
right.
we've talked to a lot of married wrestlers. Let me tell you, getting married and being a college wrestler is starting to go hand in hand. Like
Yeah.
It's becoming
especially
more common.
in Wisconsin or Nebraska. Nebraska more than Wisconsin. But what is your favorite meal that your wife cooks you?
Oh, well, so I do a carnivore diet most of the time. Like that's what I do. So she cooks up some really good burgers. And so I don't eat the bun most of the time, but yeah, she makes some real good burgers right on the Traeger. And so that
Big
just popped
Traeger,
in my head because we just had that a couple days ago. So
big Traeger guy.
yeah.
Wrestling and a Traeger goes hand in hand, I think, at
Oh
this
yeah,
point. I think
Oh,
absolutely.
definitely, man.
definitely.
Are you a big sweets guy? You got a sweet tooth or not really?
I so I, Not too bad. I go through phases where a little bit of craving here and there, but I'm more like I said, I actually switched to the carnivore diet, and that's what I do 90% of the time. And I started that like a year and a half ago, and so like I just crave steak all the time. Like I eat steak twice a day most days, and I crave that. that's about it. I eat a lot of honey too, so I get excited for some honey. But I'm not too huge into the sweets.
So if you're gonna go for some ice cream, what is it gonna be? And some steak ice cream?
If I was gonna have ice cream, I grew up having it. It's called Superman ice cream. You guys know that kind? It's like
Yeah,
all sorts of colors and
yeah.
and
Isn't it
yeah,
just vanilla
amazing.
ice cream with food dye in it? I don't think it
It
tastes
could
any different.
it tastes way better.
Okay.
It might be vanilla ice cream, but it tastes better.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down. But so we've asked this question, and sometimes people get their feelings hurt. Um, who is your favorite practice partner that you've ever had from Iowa to South Dakota State to Wisconsin to now the Badger RTC? Who's your favorite practice partner you've ever had?
All right, I'm gonna go with my boy Henry Pullmeyer, and so he was my partner at South Dakota State. He's from Iowa. He qualified for nationals 3 4 times, but yeah, me and him would go at it, and you can ask anybody at South Dakota State, but we would do 5:45 drills in the morning, and me and Henry were some ornery guys in the morning, and within 5 10 minutes, me and him would be fist fighting probably 75% of the day. Where coach got to pull us off each other. But we loved it. We loved it. We just got in there and got after it, and Henry knew how to push my buttons. I knew how to push his a little bit too. And but at the end of the day, I love Henry, and he made me tough. He's the guy who held me accountable too. And yeah, I was 33. He was 41 out at South Dakota State. So yeah, he was my partner for three years out there. And yeah, Henry's my boy.
That's good. Good to hear. Good to give a good shout out to South Dakota State. But
Yeah.
obviously, we didn't really touch on this fully in the podcast. But your wife is a fighter. We've seen you on the corner. While she's in the octagon. So what was that kind of like for you when she kind of came up to you and was like, "I want to be a fighter"?
Yeah, so yeah, she always wrestled, and I thought like watching her wrestling was hard for me. Like I got some nerves watching her wrestle, and then when she fought, oh my goodness, I've never felt that. Like I couldn't even think
Doing
straight
one
when
of
I was sitting in
these.
her corner.
Yeah,
Like I
just
didn't
yeah.
want to look, and then like when she came out at the break, I was like, all right, you got to freaking man up here, dude. She's the one fighting, not you. And so like I locked in and did a little better, but yeah, she's always loved all of the martial arts, and she loves striking and jiu-jitsu and wrestling. So yeah, she's got a passion for it, and yeah, she's gonna get back into that right after this baby. She wants to get back into it, but yeah, it's a different type of nerves watching someone go out and fight.
Do you think we'll ever see
Yeah.
you in an octagon?
Oh man, I probably not. I love jujitsu. Like I go when she trains, and I'll go to the practices, and you might see me in a jujitsu match for fun. Go do something like that. I don't love the striking part of it. Like I do it. I've done it a few times, but I don't love getting hit in the face.
I don't think
I'd
anybody
rather
does.
I'd rather grapple and yeah, do the jiu-jitsu stuff. I think my style in wrestling is very similar to jiu-jitsu style, and so I think you can see me do that someday. But probably won't get in full MMA.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see you, scrap on a tournament for some jujitsu. I'd
Yeah.
definitely like to see that. You're a long guy. You better watch out. You step on the line, your wife might throw a roundhouse at you.
Oh, I know, I know.
Something.
I'm scared of her. Nah, she definitely. We'll roll around jiu-jitsu sometime, and she's good. She's good. I don't like
Okay.
striking with her because she doesn't realize how strong she is.
She
Like
might give you
what?
a left hook a little bit too, and you might get a little wobbly.
Oh, she's laid one on me when we were just like I was holding pads for her, and she's freaking gave me
She
a
shook you
black
up a little.
eye. And
She shook you up a little bit.
oh yeah. I was like, do you realize how strong you are?
That's awesome, and I think a lot. I think it's a cool dynamic that you guys have because I feel like a lot of people are like like you would fight and your wife would be in the corner all worried and everything, and I think it's cool that you're there as a good support system for your wife and everything, and obviously she's a very decorated wrestler as well. She has a
Yeah,
crazy wrestling background, at the senior level and all that kind of stuff as well. So
yeah,
that's one of those relationships I think as well that you guys kind of just probably push each other, as the best you
yeah.
can. And now, obviously, you're bringing a child into the world, and I'm sure you guys are excited about that. And
That
Um,
kid's gonna come out throwing lat drops, lat doubles out the womb.
I know they're gonna grow up on the wrestling, man. That's for sure.
High
definitely.
energy.
And I think obviously I'm sure you got a lot of guys on the senior level that I'm sure you're friends with now that have kids, and I'm sure, you know, I'm sure they'll be there to help you along the way with any questions you got. Obviously, Jordan Burroughs, Nate Jackson, guys like that who, have kids and are still competing at the highest level at the senior level. And I'm sure you'll fit in just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy. It's a month and a half away, and it still feels so surreal. But yeah, I got a feeling it's gonna be a whole new type of motivation when that baby gets here. And yeah, I'm just excited to bring him along and be able to see me compete and stuff like that. So it's gonna be fun.
That's awesome, man. So another question here, on your perfect day, you have nothing. You don't have practice, you don't have, workouts, you don't have nothing. You have a full, complete day off. What are you gonna do?
So I'm gonna wake up probably 6:30 ish. I'm gonna make a nice breakfast, eggs, sausage, cheese. That's my go-to right there. And then I'm gonna have my drink. It's a little Crystal Light grape caffeine packet. It'll get me rolling in the morning. And then right away I'll probably go do a little fishing right down the road. We got a little spot me and my wife like to go to do some fishing there. Um, sit out in the sun for a while. Is it nice out?
Yeah, it could be nice out.
Yeah.
All right, it's nice out, 80 degrees out. We go sit outside for a while and then relax. And then come lunchtime, she can make some of her burgers. We're gonna relax and eat the burgers. Then we got 3 dogs, so go back home, hang out with the dogs for a while, take them on a walk, and man, maybe some hiking, some camping, but a lot of outdoor. That's my go-to. Is just be outside, getting that sun, and yeah, that sounds like a perfect day to me.
Sounds like a great day to me, man.
I agree. Sounds good. So another question we have for you here is, who is your favorite wrestler of all time? Somebody that you either grew up watching or just kind of replicated their style, or kind of had them make some, tweaks in your style because of what they did. Who is that guy for you?
I'd say growing up, I was actually a big Gophers fan. My dad brought me to all, right? I was 20 minutes away from the U of M, and so my dad would bring me to all the duels, and so I was a fan of a lot of those Gopher wrestlers. I'd say the biggest one, I thought it was so cool when, as a freshman, Dustin Schlater won a national title. So I'd say growing up, he was probably my favorite wrestler. And crazy enough about that, I get to high school and Apple Valley, like I said, they were a pretty good program. They end up bringing in like college athletes to coach us during the summer, and 2 summers in Apple Valley, Dustin Schlater ended up being our freestyle coach out there. So it was pretty crazy. I was like, no way is this dude in here
Yeah,
every
that's
day,
awesome.
but growing up, like I was always cheering for the Gophers, and so he was my favorite, especially when he won that national title.
Yeah, man, 100%. And we've asked this question at this point about 180 odd times, and we're gonna ask it to you right now. You could take 3 of your Wisconsin Badger teammates with you into the zombie apocalypse. Who would it be and why?
Oh, easy. Reader number one. That dude will freaking run through a wall, take out 8 million zombies, and still have energy to go.
I can agree
Um,
with that. I can attest to that.
um, now I got to think. We got so his energy. He'll keep everyone positive through it all. Let's see. I would take Barnett next. He's smart, right? He'd be the guy to plot a plan, make sure we survive. Um, then I bring my boy Joe with too, and then I bring Joe Zargo. Man, that's tough. Now I want. I think I messed up, but we'll go with those three. I think us three would kill it. We'd survive and we'd kill all the zombies.
You got a quick team. I don't know about you don't got the size advantage, but
That's
I
what I
think
was thinking about. That's the one regret. I was like, man, I probably should have grabbed a big guy, but
yeah,
like
should
I
have
We'll
grabbed
said,
give
like
you we'll
a
give you an honorable mention.
should have
me
grabbed a Pete or Braxton, a Tal Shahar, or something in there.
I know me and Reader are hitting the weights hard though, so we're gonna get that size here soon, so we'll be all right.
Yeah,
Reader's trying to bulk up to 200 too, put on some weight, so we'll manage. We'll beat him with the speed, and,
beat him
and then
with
we'll
speed.
be smart.
Yeah, big brain.
There you
That's
go.
all that matters. All right, Seth. First of all, thank you so much for coming on and sitting down with us for our comeback episode here a little bit. We figured what better of a guy for a comeback episode than a guy with probably one of the best comeback stories in wrestling history at this point. And, I got to say, one of the best talkers as well. You're great, man. I feel like you've overcome so much in your career, and the way you speak about it and the way you carry yourself is just one of a kind. So we thank you for that, man. And we look forward to the future, man. Hopefully, one in the next couple of years here, we'll be introducing you as world team member and Olympic champ. That would be awesome, man. Next year's a big year for now. All the senior level guys out there.
Yo, let's go. I'm so grateful you guys have me on here today. I'm excited for you guys to come out to Madison and get some behind the scenes content at some point.
We're coming.
Let's go. I'm grateful for you guys, and we'll run it back on the podcast after I go get some hardware in the next couple of years. But
yes, sir,
like
man.
I said, I appreciate you guys.
Of course. It's been another episode of the Heavyweight Nation podcast. We'll see you guys later.